Welcome to Western Wisconsin Journal. I'm Bobby Pominville. I'm your reporter on the arts. Today we're going to be talking about a lifelong choir. It's one of my favorite projects. And these two ladies I have invited to join me are going to help me with that. So let me introduce you. First on my left is Nancy Abrahamson. She is the St. Croix County Dementia Care Specialist. And she will be answering a lot of my questions and a lot of things you might be wondering about. And I'll come back to you in a minute, Nancy. And on my right is Angie Pilgrim from the St. Croix Valley Foundation. She is the Grants and Programs Officer. So we're all excited to tell you about this wonderful event that's going to occur in Hudson at Lakefront Park on June 9th. And we're all going to help each other sharing some of these things. But I know I want to be able to understand dementia so much better than I do because it's in my family, it's in my husband's family. And so I'm going to start with Nancy because she's quite an expert on this. You've been involved with Alzheimer's and dementia caregivers for over 35 years, Nancy. That's so impressive. And I want to tell them a little bit more about you. You majored in social work and psychology. You attended Augsburg University and University of Wisconsin at River Falls. You're experienced in healthcare, home care, hospital social work, nursing home social work, as well as employed by the Alzheimer's associations in both Minnesota and Wisconsin. I don't know how you have time for all that. And then I did say 35 years of experience professionally and with family members. You're good at helping people understand, communicate with, and support these individuals with Alzheimer's, as well as their caregivers. That's sort of where I am right now. And we're going to get into the part about music being a big part of lifelong engagement with these dementia people. So the first question is, what is important to know about dementia when interacting with individuals with a diagnosis?
Well, thank you for asking. I'm happy to be here. It's important to know that dementia does not define a person, that while it's a medical diagnosis, people have many skills, abilities, and their personality is retained long into the disease process. So that's really important. The second thing I like people to understand is know about the disease, understanding it, accepting the people with the disease, communicating with them in an appropriate manner, supporting their caregivers, and then engaging them is key. Yes. As it is for every human being. So it doesn't change with a diagnosis.
That's a very good point.
And I think, too, the other thing is that with this kind of disease, every day can be different. So some days, and many days, people function reasonably well, and then they'll have a day where it's really hard to kind of navigate some of the tasks or activities that they normally do. So know that that's one day out of several.
Right. I'm a little bit experienced with that and what I'm going through. Mm-hmm. But that's a great point, and you make it so human, and you make it so important for these people to be treated in that way, and how they can grow and still do things.
Yeah, and I think many of us are influenced by how people are behaving around us,
yes,
with or without dementia. So if we are tense or anxious, particularly with dementia, they also become tense and anxious. And the increase of those things reduces function. So we really want them to feel comfortable, reassured.
Right.
Yes.
That's excellent. And this thing that's going to happen in Hudson, it's actually the second year, but this year is going to be much bigger on many different levels. And it's going to be the Lifelong Singers Choir. and the importance of music to the dementia patient. And so that's why I'm going to ask you this next question. And why is music important in their lives?
Well, I don't know about you, but music gives me great joy, but it also evokes emotion. Yes. So it makes me, on some levels, I might be sad to hear a piece. I might be pondering when I hear a piece, but I might be happy or really in a playful mood. Music is the one thing that begins when we're in the womb.
That's
because we know now that babies hear while they're developing. But it's also something that our loved ones start with us once we are born. Yes. I always sang to my grandchildren at bedtime. Mm-hmm. And if I didn't think to mention it, they would. Mm. And music, not only that, but it resides in long-term memory, which is one of the last things to go.
Yes.
Music is one of the last skills to leave somebody with dementia. Mm-hmm. And it exercises both sides of the brain, which few activities do. Exactly. So when I get to the point with dementia that perhaps I'm not finding words or I can't speak at all, if a song is played that is in my long-term memory, I may just sing all the verses, and I've seen that happen over and over.
And that's just amazing.
It's
because
wonderful.
I've been up at CCH with various groups, and I even know some of the residents personally. And there is one gal that hasn't talked for many, many, many years. But all of a sudden we got so excited because she started to sing a song that was in her memory. And it was like, for someone who hadn't spoken in years, and just think how amazing that was, that she could get back in her memory somehow and find that song. So we do go to the old songs. We go to the old time songs, sometimes the turn of the century songs because of the ages of the patients. And very often we'll hear them singing. And patriotic songs are another one that's really a big deal when I bring groups there. Because they love the patriotic songs, and I assume a lot of them were in the service. So that's a very special part of their memory.
Yeah, and there was a time in our history where the general public was quite patriotic. There were a lot of parades, a lot of bands, so it's essential to their life experience. The other thing that can happen, even without words, for those of us who maybe have also been raised with classical music. Years ago, I got a book called The Healing Energies of Music by Hal Lingerman. And he covered things like, if someone's in a melancholy mood, here are some songs you can play. And folks that, when there is a piece of music that doesn't involve words, they can still hum.
That's right.
So there are many ways to reach people.
Yes. So I've learned some of this just from my many visits there. And I just have found that music is so important in so many ways. But to these people, it's absolutely wonderful that they can recall that. So, and I could talk for music. You know, I want to talk about music a lot, but now I'm going to go to another subject. So how can their caregivers, friends, or family be engaged with them in a choir?
A number of ways. One is that they are welcome to come along and sing with the person, because at some point in the disease, the person with the diagnosis may feel more comfortable with a family member or a friend. And so that person can be a prompt for their loved one. But perhaps they don't, someone doesn't have a family member here or with dementia, but they want to volunteer. They can come and spend time with someone who perhaps wants to come but doesn't have a family member. So there are lots of ways to engage with the choir.
That's a wonderful thought. I wasn't even thinking about that. Well, I don't want to forget anything that you want to say, so if something comes up later, be sure and tell me. Now I'm going to go to Angie, and I haven't really read about your bio yet, but I just work with you with the St. Croix Valley Foundation on music ed grants.
Yes.
So I've known you for quite a few years. And you came back to the Valley. You actually came to Hudson after many, many years in Chicago, Illinois.
Yes.
I think that was a very great choice.
Yes, good move.
Me too, as does my family.
So you were working with a pretty high-powered group in Chicago, Price Waterhouse Coopers.
Yes.
That sounds like quite a change from what you're doing now.
Yes.
And then it says here you followed your heart to the nonprofit sector. I think that is such a compliment to you. And you were a program officer for World Chicago and executive director of the Chicago Foundation for Education. That's
Yes.
so impressive. We're so lucky we have you now. And then, of course, you brought your husband and 3 children to live in Holton, where you enjoy a lot of different things like travel, ski, cooking, and hiking with your dog. And I have such a, I don't know, affinity with you because I taught at the Holton School for so many years.
Yes.
And that was such a delight for me to drive out in the country a little bit.
Yes.
Kind of reminded me of my growing up in North Dakota, actually.
Oh, sure.
So now
That is country.
I didn't
That's
know
right.
you were involved with this particular group, but how did you get involved with Dementia Friendly Communities Coalition and the Lifelong Singers Choir event?
Yeah, sure. Well, first I want to thank you, Bobby, for this opportunity.
You're so welcome.
I was telling them as I arrived, this was my first appearance on TV.
Yes.
And my kids and my colleagues and I are all pretty excited about it. So thank you so much. I also want to thank Nancy for being just an invaluable
Yes. Oh.
partner in this effort and resource in the St. Croix County. We're so lucky to have her as our dementia care specialist. So thank you. And then I want to thank the viewers for watching and
Yes. Oh,
for
definitely.
caring about this really important topic. So anyway, to answer your question, how did the St. Croix Valley Foundation get involved? I thought I'd take a step back and give an overview of the organization. What is the St. Croix Valley Foundation?
Yes.
And then maybe provide some historical context of what happened to get us to the point where we had a Dementia Friendly Communities Coalition that was doing wonderful things like a choir and a Dementia Friendly Sunday. And then if you have any questions as I'm going along, please just say time out and ask away.
Thank you.
So the St. Croix Valley Foundation is a regional community foundation, and we were founded in 1995 to enhance the quality of life in the St. Croix Valley. And though our offices are located here in Hudson, Wisconsin, we support 10 completely volunteer-run affiliate foundations throughout a 6-county region. So 7 of those affiliates are here in Wisconsin, including the Hudson Community Foundation, right here in Hudson. And then 3 of those are across the river in Minnesota. So we serve and support all of those. So what is it that we do to enhance the quality of life in the St. Croix Valley? Well, we do lots of things, but it comes down to 3 really important things. First of all, we encourage philanthropy. So we try to make people community philanthropists. Doesn't matter how much money you have or who you are, you can be involved in supporting charitable activities in your communities and supporting the places and the programs that you love. So that's the first thing. The second thing, we support area nonprofits, both through grant dollars, but also through professional development opportunities. We try to build the capacity of the leaders at those organizations. And then lastly, thirdly, we collaborate and we convene to start conversations around important regional topics. And that third reason is how we got involved with the Dementia Friendly Communities Coalition. So that's just a really quick overview of the St. Croix Valley Foundation. So now a little more historical context. How did the coalition, the Dementia Friendly Communities Coalition, come to be? Well, in 2012, I'm going to hold this up, show both of you.
Yes.
Nancy's well aware. An organization called Memory Care selected 3 really beautifully written one-act plays that highlight the issues that loved ones face when there's a dementia or Alzheimer's diagnosis. And they published them in this book, and they made the book available to nonprofits to reproduce those plays for the purposes of education, for advocacy, but they're really beautiful, so I suggest reading it. A few key local people saw the plays in action, actually up at Festival Theater in St. Croix Falls. So they saw one of the plays, and they started wondering, can we use those plays to maybe start some important conversations here in the Valley? And so I'm gonna mention a few of the people that were involved. Hudson community member, she's also now a St. Croix Valley Foundation board member, Judy Freund, saw the plays. CCH director, Dan Goodyear, was very interested in doing something. And then a theater professional that's been involved with the St. Croix Valley Foundation for many years, her name's Danette Olson. They started wondering, is there something we can do to engage the community in a conversation using the arts? Because we all know how powerful that can be.
Yes.
So with some seed funding from CCH, from the Freund Fund at the St. Croix Valley Foundation, and from our ever loyal and wonderful partner, Hugh J. Anderson Foundation, we started putting together a pilot program, and we called that program the Remember Project. And we premiered these 3 plays throughout the region. Right away, we realized we needed some experts around the table, so we got Nancy involved pretty early on from the ADRC. The Alzheimer's Association was involved. Care Facilities, CCH was an invaluable partner, and many of the hospital leaders and foundations were also involved. So in 2015, 16 different communities from Grantsburg, Wisconsin to down to Hastings, Minnesota, and everywhere in between hosted the 3 plays, and over 1,000 people attended. And so we were just so pleased. So the plays were very well received. Everyone had really positive comments, but there was an overwhelming sentiment of, well, okay, now what? We saw the plays, now what happens? We started the conversation, what's next? And so at the conclusion, that's how then the Dementia Friendly Communities Coalition was formed. So it all came back to that Remember Project, starting the conversation and then building on that. So the coalition in structure is actually quite similar to the St. Croix Valley Foundation. We have this regional Dementia Friendly Communities Coalition that's thinking very regionally. And then we have several community coalitions that have popped up that are doing really good work. There's a coalition in New Richmond that's hosting a variety of educational events this spring and summer, actually. There's a coalition in River Falls that's doing really good and powerful work. I know they're very busy in Polk County doing some things. So we have this kind of overarching coalition that's trying to work with all the community coalitions to make their work happen. The focus, though, of the regional coalition has been on building dementia-friendly faith communities. That focus, I think we started a couple years ago where we said that's really where people are connecting and seeking support is from their faith communities. And then we also wanted to address the stigma and the isolation that oftentimes comes with a diagnosis. So that's why the coalition is in the process of hosting our 2nd annual, last year was our 1st,
Yes.
Dementia Friendly Sunday, and Bobby, you alluded to it a little bit earlier, taking place on Sunday, June 9th. And there's actually 2 ways to get involved with Dementia Friendly Sunday. First of all, we're reaching out to the churches throughout our service area, so 6 county service area, and asking them to host dementia-friendly services. And that can look a lot of different ways. That may feel overwhelming for a church, but I think it can really look a lot of different ways. It can be a table at the back of your church that just has some information on what is dementia and how can you get connected and what resources are there available. It can be, we're actually doing an interview again tomorrow with a pastor that's here in Hudson. And she created a really lovely service last year that had a testimonial from a caregiver, hymns that everyone knows by heart, readings that everyone knows by heart. So things that are very familiar and comfortable so that someone with a diagnosis can relate and can understand. Then the second thing we're doing on Dementia Friendly Sunday is the Music by Heart Community Sing-Along. Yes. And that's taking place, and you mentioned it already, at Hudson's Lakefront Park at 1:00 p.m. It's intended for people of all ages to participate. Bring a picnic lunch, enjoy some music. We're going to have some lemonade and cookies available, and obviously some information and resources. And the debut performance, and this is how we got Bobby roped in.
Thank you, Bobby.
Yes, thank you, Bobby, of our Lifelong Singers Choir.
Yes.
And this is something we're so excited about. We've all heard of the Giving, maybe not everyone has heard, but the Coalition is definitely aware of an organization that's called Giving Voice, and they've been a wonderful resource for us. They're located in both Minneapolis and St. Paul, but they provide a toolkit for communities, and the choirs are just spreading, I know nationally, and I think even internationally.
Really?
And yes, and they can be all different levels. They can be what we're doing this year. And Bobby, I'm sure we're going to talk about it a little bit more. It's completely volunteer run. It's very grassroots. We're involving really powerful players in the choir scene in the St. Croix Valley to connect and to host a few rehearsals where people can get involved. And then at the other end of the spectrum, some communities develop their own nonprofit that's taking this choir to a whole nother level. Employing people, memberships, etc. So we're starting small and hoping to get anyone who loves to sing, all ages, whether you have a dementia diagnosis or a different diagnosis or no diagnosis at all. We hope you will get involved in this choir, and I'm sure you're going to hold that information up shortly. So I guess I just want to say, please join us, whether you're an individual that's interested in participating in the coalition, whether you're someone who loves to sing, whether you're someone who needs information from Nancy, or whether you're a church who wants a little bit more information on how to host a dementia-friendly Sunday service, please join us. We'd love to have as much participation as possible in our Dementia-Friendly Sunday.
Oh, you really said that so well.
And actually, as a coalition, we've developed some guides for doing dementia-friendly Sundays, so that people don't have to come up with their own ideas. We just want to make it easy to find a champion in your faith community and then implement something to raise awareness.
Right.
Absolutely.
And some of us had already tapped into some of the music because we had been up at CCH or wherever we've been at rest homes and various things singing, and I had done that with some of my other groups. And so the music started to take shape, and it was the music that appealed to the people. And like, for example, someone could even bring their mother, father, brother, sister, and that would be a wonderful experience for them because they'd be sharing this music, and hopefully the person who has dementia would really open up and be able to express themselves. And I think through music is a wonderful way.
It is, and may I say this, so much of dementia and caregiving involves tasks. This is a really great way for families to share joy together and come at life from a different perspective.
Yes, and to think that someone who hadn't spoken to their mother or someone for years, and now all of a sudden they have a connection. And it's so good for the families and the people that are involved. I just think it's so exciting because I know when I looked over and saw my brother-in-law singing over at Croydale, I was just moved to the point of tears. And it was so powerful for the family because we were there. So this year we're going to be going into it a little deeper because we are actually having rehearsals. And I know that this poster will be on the screen during this interview so people can see. I'm pleased to announce that in Hudson we have Bethel Lutheran Church downtown. That's 920 3rd Street. Can't miss it. And that's where we're holding our Hudson rehearsals. And it's going to be on a Thursday night in April, May, and June. So we can kind of prep ourselves and get ready. And this is open to anybody. It's not just open to the musicians and the accompanists and so on. It's open to the people that actually are suffering with dementia and have maybe a son or daughter that want to bring them, or whoever is involved in their lives. If they hear about this, our hope is that you will bring them.
Or perhaps a granddaughter or son.
Yes.
It could be that. Yes, it could definitely be that. And I dare say that every one of us has experienced someone. So the night we think is a good night for people. And I'll say the dates, but you'll also see them posted. April 25th, May 16th, June 6th. And that's the Thursday right before the Sunday, the very important day of June 9th, where we're all coming together in the park. And the timing, we tried to time it so people could get off work and before they get too tired and so on, and it's 6 to 7 p.m. So we'll be singing for an hour down at Bethel. I'm so pleased because it does happen to be my church, but there was no hesitation. But it's not just going to happen in Hudson. It's even going to happen in Dresser, Peace Lutheran, same days, same hour. Centuria, Wisconsin has a location, the Fristed Lutheran Church. And in Amory, we have the Congregational Church. Now, one reason for that is we're trying to involve the church choirs, and we want to involve the churches. Like Angie said a little bit ago, we want people to be aware of this so that they know they have a place to come and they can bring whoever they want and they can prep themselves, but most of the time, the people just sing. When they feel the need and they all of a sudden their minds open up and they can sing. And that is the most exciting thing in the whole affair of this second year. So hopefully now we can invite as many people that want to come as can.
And while they're at churches, they are non-denominational, and the music will be quite a broad spectrum.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes. And it'll be a lot of songs that I've chosen a lot of them for CCH. And when we got together at our last meeting, the other directors were sharing what success they'd had with certain songs. And we decided we have to end with Happy Trails to You.
Very good.
And we all went, oh, that's perfect. So actually, we're going to share some of our music. And they're going to bring in some of their music.
Great.
And we're combining it.
Perfect.
So it's just that kind of music that you love to sing.
I also want to point out that though the rehearsals are taking place in Hudson and North and in Polk County, we do invite people from all over,
Yes.
Minnesota, Wisconsin,
Sure,
wherever you
please.
are.
Willing to drive
Oh
10
my
or
goodness.
15 miles or
Yep.
more.
Please join us for
Yeah.
these rehearsals. It's not intended to just be for those locations, that they're open. It's
true.
open to all.
Yes.
And you'll make new friends.
That's true. And like we've said, all ages and abilities. We invite all of you. And, you know, when we were sitting there at CCH and I was meeting with musicians, directors, and people at CCH, and there were so many people that I had never met before. But we all have that common ground now.
Yes.
So we're all ready to take off and make this work and have a really exciting day of singing. So I'm just really excited about it myself because I've always enjoyed through the years. And you know what I call it? I call it bridging the generational gap.
Yes.
And I think it's so important for that to happen, even between grandparents and so on. But that is something I've always wanted to further more. And this is a perfect reason, because if you can really get someone's mind to open up to sing, it's just a beautiful experience. And I know they feel better. It's a positive.
Takes their mind off the stress and the worries in the world.
Yes.
It does, and I have to tell you, I use music a lot for that in my life.
Likewise.
And in fact, I'm in 5 choirs right now. I'm a little busy, but some of them are seasonal. So in the summer, I'll only be in 1 choir, and then I'll be devoting my time to this particular.
Well, we're so lucky to have you.
Yes.
Well,
Thank
thank
you so
you.
much.
Thank
Yes.
you. I'm just delighted to be involved. And I had no idea when Shelley called me last year that I would be jumping right in and enjoying it for, well, another year. And I do think it has taken off in Minnesota. And I'd like to see that happen in Wisconsin.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But like we said, please do come, no matter where you live.
Even check it out if you're not sure. Just come and check
Right.
it out and see what happens.
Because it's going to be a really important thing in the lives of the people that need music
Yes.
and connecting with their families. So that's really what I'd like to see. So I just want to say, is there anything else you want to share quickly before we have to end our interview?
Well, I'd like to share a story about a woman and her daughter who, in their younger years, the mother worked a lot. She was a single mom, and the daughter was missing her mother. And you know how teenage moms and daughters, sometimes there's some friction there, or they don't understand feel like they understand one another. Anyway, they became quite estranged. But over the years, the daughter went on to develop a profession as an Episcopal minister, and the mother carried on her life but developed dementia and ended in a care facility. So when the daughter decided to re-engage with her mother and came to visit her, Mom wasn't verbal anymore, and her daughter was unsure of really how to connect with Mom. But she had a favorite hymn, and it was comforting to her, so she began to sing that. And her mother started joining in and sang all of the words for being a nonverbal person. And so it was a way for them to spend time. And the staff informed the daughter that that happened to be her mother's favorite hymn. So on a larger level, we connect in so many ways.
Yes.
And it's and we get information from people that may be perfect strangers.
Exactly.
But this will be a fantastic project and a good experience for people who want to engage in singing with our choir.
Yes.
Yes, it will. And I just thought of something else. You were talking about the pastor that really got involved, that conducted a service. We hope that the churches in the area will consider that dementia-friendly Sunday and possibly do something in their services that would advance the feeling of dementia and music. So we're hoping that too, and we'll get the word out soon. But hopefully you will get some information on this station when you're watching today. And you will also see some information in the newspapers, I'm sure. But it would be nice if you could pick it up at church as well. And we will make sure that gets passed out.
And it'll be on the St. Croix Valley Dementia Friendly Facebook page as well.
Oh, yes, that's a good point.
So that's
Thank you.
another. And might I say, maybe you feel you're not a singer, but you certainly can come and support us. Bring a picnic lunch on Sunday, June 9th. And perhaps you can volunteer to assist at a choir practice.
Excellent. Well, thank you to both of
Thank you,
Thank
Bobby.
you, Bobby.
You just made this interview so nice for me and so easy for me to conduct because you're so knowledgeable, both of you. And I do hope the audience listening enjoyed it and can pick up on it and I hope to see you on June 9th in the park.
Or at choir practice.
Yes.
Or at the choir practices, and you'll see that on the screen. So thank you very much for watching today.
Thank you, Bobby.
Thank you, Bobby.